Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, AS400 Report Deployment for Remote Users. Many organizations are facing their challenge of having to support a remote workforce. IT departments have had their hands full just trying to set up secure connections, VPNs, firewalls, doing all the things they need to do to keep their organizations running and their systems secure, and all while trying to meet the informational demands of the organization. What we heard from many IBMI shops is that they never want to be in the situation again where they can't provide their business users with key information no matter where the user community is working. And what we want to share with you today is how you can quickly convert your AS400 queries into SQL and instantly provide web-based reporting. My name is Stacy Jensen, and I'm the sales manager for the Business Intelligence Division here at Help Systems. I will be your host for today's webinar. Presenting today is our BI expert, Mike Stegman. Mike is a senior data access consultant with Help Systems and has been working on the IBMI since its inception in 1988 and has been working with SQL for 17 years. How are you today, Mike?
I'm real good. How are you today?
Doing good, thank you.
Good. Excellent.
A little housekeeping about today's session. We will have a Q&A session at the conclusion of the webinar, so if you have questions during the session, please send those off using that chat option. You can reach that option by clicking on the orange arrow at the top right-hand side of the screen. We are also recording the webinar, and we will include a link to the recording in our follow-up email, which usually comes within a day or so. So Mike, handing it over to you. Take it away.
Okay, sounds good. Here's the agenda for today's presentation. There's two ways to convert your Query 400 queries into SQL statements and then instantly display them through a browser. I like to subtitle this section, No Need to Move the Data. Then we're going to have touch on tips for getting data easily into Excel. And I'll talk about how simple it can be to share data and dashboards from a browser. And I'll finish up with a demo of SQL. Designed specifically for businesses in 1988, the IBMI has grown into a powerful system capable of many tasks. With DB2 database built into the operating system, it has become the most reliable, scalable, securable system on the market today. IBM provided Query 400 as a way for users to see the data in the database, but it was still green screen. The speed, the power, the functionality that has been added to the newer versions of the operating system mean that you can keep your data in the same place, use the same enterprise software, perhaps even a GUI version of that enterprise software, and have the stability needed in today's business world and for today's business professionals. Query 400 really limits your users when they connect remotely. Early on, IBM worked with ITG and more recently with Quark and Lepton for studies on servers. The results haven't changed much over the years. The IBMI has a lower total cost of ownership and lower 3-year downtime costs than Oracle Linux and Microsoft SQL Server, which is great because your IBMI can be accessibly remotely with modern data displays. I mentioned no need to move the data. Okay? Keeping your business data on the IBMI saves you time and money. Converting your AS400 queries into SQL preserves your time and investment that you've already put in to creating those queries. And keep in mind, you can create queries from scratch and there's no requirement of creating metadata or data about data, which is the definition of metadata. If you do have a data warehouse, that is also accessible with SQL. And one area that you can easily move beyond query is pulling data in from other platforms. Data from these other platforms can be accessed either alone or merged with other systems. No matter the source of your data, it is easily movable to PC files like Excel, which brings us to the next topic. Right. The fact that SQL definitions are centrally stored in the eye, you can use either the PC GUI interface we call Viewpoint, or to create or make changes to the definitions. It makes what I call the share change cycle simple and short. Okay, designers convert their queries into SQL definitions. okay? And the views, tables, dashboards, and the like. Remote users look at it, may ask for more, or may ask for changes. That's that cycle, right? Then it goes back to the designer. They make their changes, resave it, and it's displayed. Real simple within SQL. So business users, looking at SQL objects themselves from Viewpoint or the browser, they can download the data into Excel, all from remote. Just real simple. We'll see this in the demo too as we go forward. We all know that Excel is still the tool of choice for business users, and being able to quickly get your AS400 queries into Excel is the key to empowering your users right now. So like Babe Ruth's number, or how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop, according to Mr. Owl, there are 3 ways business users can end up with IBMI data from other sources into Excel. Sometimes users want the option of just looking at the data before moving it to Excel, or possibly some other PC format. SQL Viewpoint and Web Interface have results toolbar, which allows users to choose if they would like the data exported to Excel once they've confirmed the data. Or they can right-click on it and display the results directly into Excel. Number 2, the Excel add-in doesn't require the user to open Viewpoint. The workbook, the Excel workbook itself, stores the definition specifics and runs the SQL each time the user would like. And number 3, pushing data out in just about any format, including Excel. That can be done interactively or from scheduled jobs. You create PC files for users to access, or just simply pushing out emails. The physical location of your users doesn't matter these days, right? Our current situation and possibly future option, employees working from home, is adding a new dimension to your IT workload. There are firewall issues, setting up secure VPNs, users using approved devices, those types of things. But when your business users are working from home, they will still need access to data and to information. Your processes may need to shift. For example, recently I worked with a client who they'd written some SQL reports for their users. They were all going to a printer and print it out. Well, with everyone being remote, no one's at the office near the printer. They have SQL, which of course comes with our eSend, and they also have our full eSend product, which is the emailing piece. So within just a few minutes, I helped her set up to automatically forward the output as an email, as a PDF, to the person running the report. And last I heard, all the users were ecstatic with the process. I believe they will keep this process in place once everyone is back in the office. They'll save paper and gives the business users control over the printing options. Organizations can give remote users the information they need to do their jobs in a more modern looking format than green screen, and more useful results than Query 400. Sometimes, in order to hire highly qualified business users, you must reach outside your geographical area. And what do these highly qualified users need to do their job at a high level? Well, data and information. Secure your access, secure the definition, but let users have visibility to their data. Even if they're not the report or the dashboard designers, browser access deployment of information keeps users working and making good business decisions. The next topic is displaying data in a dashboard, deploying it out to your users. Basically, what users need today is information. Looking at data to see what happened. They can look at data from a query, but that's about all they can easily do with that information. They want to see the details behind the numbers, or look at the information graphically so they might understand it better, or understand the trends and what's happening in the business right now. Can't do that very well with green screen. When IT asks what users are looking for, often it's dashboards, specifically dashboards displaying KPIs in a graphical way, customizable dashboards, runtime prompts so users can select their own data even if they are remote, drill down into the details from summary displays, data downloadable into PC formats. data that can be emailed. These are some of the areas that clients tell us they need for their business users. SQL has them all. Remote users can see them all. And you can even have a dashboard that refreshes every few minutes, so on a large monitor for everyone to see. Like if you're at a plant or if you are back in the office, you have the big screens up there. You can see what's going on. You can also display it on your remote monitor, right, to kind of see what's happening in a particular business or department. Can't see this kind of stuff in a printed report. We have some trucking company clients who have designed dashboards for their dispatchers so they can visually monitor the activity that concerns the trailer movement. Dashboards have a variety of uses and designs. Now I'm going to jump into the SQL demo. I'm going to touch on 3 areas that I covered here in the presentation. Modernizing your queries, meaning converting them, your query 400s into a modern looking thing, exporting into Excel, and then accessing remote users with KPI type access from a browser. Along the way, I'll sprinkle in some little bit of extras. Okay, so bear with me while I switch screens. Okay, this is the viewpoint screen. Whoops. There we go. This is our viewpoint screen, our Viewpoint Explorer. And what I'm going to start off with is the importing of queries. So I'm going to come right over here. And if your Windows skills are there, you can see a lot of easily things that you can do here. Just click, right click, things like that. I'm going to click into my query library. And these are some queries that we have out already on our IBMI. I'm going to select 3 of them to bring in: orders, pay date, and sales. Go ahead and import them. It takes just a couple seconds. There we go. And then there they are at the bottom of the list. Okay, orders, pay date, and sales. If I double click, I'm going to display the results. Same information you're seeing from query, but already you're in a more graphical, more modern look. There are things you can do. You can fix that column heading. You can fix the rounding. You can move the fields around. I'll show you how you can do some of that with a new view definition. So without having to do much, we created that. So let's go ahead and create one from scratch rather than using one of those. Let's go into the new area. And there's different levels. I'm set up at an advanced level, so I could come here to the SQL, copy and paste or type. I kind of like using our files and fields, which is our graphical designer. There's a button at the top, but again, I prefer just to right click and use the same icon and select my data files. I'm using a shortcut called favorites. So I only have these 5 files to choose from. I'm going to pick 3 to start with. And we have auto join feature, so it links the files for me. I've told SQL how to link them together. If I need more, I can just click and drag. If you don't have auto join set up, it's that easy. Click and drag. Get the fields into the view, into the definitions. Just start double clicking on them. You can also click and drag, but since my mouse is at the top, I tend to keep it at the top and just find my field, double click, and it moves into our columns down below, which if you're familiar with SQL, we have our from clause at the top and our select clause at the bottom. So I'm selecting some fields here and forgot what file. Let me go back and add another file. Easily done, right? Let's go grab the part master. There it is, because I want the description. So easy. Auto join took place. Real easy for me to build. Okay. Now I have fields out over here. Got a whole bunch of fields all ready to go. I'm going to add a new column heading to the address 3 field, which is really the city. The database was designed just calling the field address 3. I'm going to create a new derived or calculated field to do a little formula. Now this is where the power of SQL really begins, because you can use a lot of different functions. You can put character to numeric, numeric to character, conditional logic with case, convert a field to date field. There's so many things that you can do in here. And after 17 years of using the product, I've not used them all. Haven't really had a need to use them all, but some of our clients actually use more than I do, which is fine. So you can type in the formula at the top, or you can use the fields down below. Okay, if you haven't selected them, you can go to the files and select them from there. Like I said, for technical people, though, sometimes they like to type things out, so you can just type it in at the top. I like to double click, right? So I'm going to take the quantity ordered times a field that I have selected, the actual selling price. So one is from a file, one is from our already selected from the file. Check my syntax, it looks good. And now I have a new field. You want to give it an alternate name, right? So the system knows how to refer to it, so you don't see that derived thing that you saw in the query anywhere. Give it a name that the user would find useful. Right, pretty simple to do. So in just a few moments here, probably less than 2 minutes, I've already got my view kind of built here. I can change the format of the numbers. I can add things like currencies. I can add or remove thousand separators. If it's a file field, you're limited to what the file field is defined as, but you can tweak that at the view level. When you do any numeric field that you can change. Sometimes you have to change. You have to remove the thousand separator on things like order number or customer number. Sometimes you have to do that. So just something to keep in mind. So you can easily just add any field you want, calculated fields, file fields. You can hit your display button up at the top like I just did and see where we're at right now. Not bad, got region, state, city. See the column heading I have, all the different data I have, my new derived field, all of it's out over here. So looking good so far. Adding a sort is simple click. Just click on the field or fields that you want, ascending or descending. Okay, if I look at the SQL, we're building this for you. Like I said, I could have typed this out. I don't like to. That's me, I'm lazy. I'm going to use the buttons. Now the where clause is your filter. So I clicked on the word where. I'm going to put a variable out there. So if I use the field name, in this case REGON, regun, with an ampersand in front of it, we're going to define it for you. Okay, if you use another word, we're going to ask you to define it. But here it is. If I look at the variables tab, we created it. If I hit the display, I get the prompt for the region. Okay, a couple of tweaks you can do within the region. You can leave it as it is with no rule, let the user enter a region, or you can give them a list to choose from, 10, 20, and 30. Now when I hit display, I get a drop down for exactly what I entered. Okay, most people, you can do that, that's fine. For short lists like this, I only have 5, but a lot of our customers like to use the object. So you can either use a SQL object or a file, database file. Go to the file, go to my data file. It's actually the customer master is one I'm using in the view, right? Same one. Going to grab the region field, regun. Now, when I hit display, I get all 5, right? So imagine if you had customer lists or product lists or, things like that, account numbers. You're going to see a lot longer list than just 5. So that's where it's handy to use those. Okay. So some things you can do there, you can change the text on that. Again, we build the whole SQL there for you. I'm going to save the definition now. I'm going to put it into a library. I have my default set up, so it goes to my default library. I call it orders 2. Give it a long description here. Hopefully I can type this out. Okay, there we go. Yep, that's why I don't like to type much. Okay, now it's been saved. Now it's ready to be displayed from green screen, from Viewpoint, our GUI, PC GUI interface, or from the browser. It's all ready to go. It's all you have to do. Build it once, and it took just 5 minutes, maybe. That includes all the talking and the decision making and things like this. If I come back here to my list, there's orders 2, order for webinar. Again, I can display it. It's all ready to go. And I'm pretty happy. Now I'm going to show you. Now this is a more sophisticated one, I call it, right? It's longer, obviously. It's using Union. So you can be this complicated, right? You can be a little bit more. You can use native SQL syntax, most of it. You can use our syntax. This one's a short one, but it's using a subselect. If you don't know what a subselect is, that's okay. If you're a programmer, you probably know. So, those are the things that you can do within SQL Viewpoint. Sometimes you have to do it on the SQL tab versus the files and fields, but hey, that's okay too. Now, scripts are pretty handy. Again, they're sometimes used by the designers by higher level. It's when you do want to merge data from different systems, right? Here I'm taking 3 views, one with DB2 data from the eye, SQL Server, and Oracle data, and merging it all together. From a user standpoint, all I have to do is just run it, right? This one has a prompt for how I want it sorted, so I don't have to do it after the fact. And here's my 3 systems, IBM, Oracle, and SQL Server and Oracle, and all brought in to one result set. Now there's a little bit of setup to get those things, but it's not hard to do. And once it's created in Viewpoint Administrator, then you can build your views and then build the script to bring it all together. Okay? And again, that can be pretty useful there. Now, I'm going to flip over to the SQL Web Interface on the browser side. This is an existing one. I do want to touch on the Excel download now. So anytime you have data displayed from your browser, you can see just using your toolbar, you can go right to Excel. There are other things you can do on the toolbar, but the one we're talking about here is saving results and exporting it to Excel. Easily done right there from the dashboard. Now, other ways you can get data into Excel is if you right click on a view from the Excel Viewpoint Explorer, save results as a PC file, as well as the display in Excel, right? So you have these options. This one happens to be prompted. So I put in the years that I'm using for my year-over-year comparison, select my customer number or salesman number, and then I pick my PC format, in this case, Excel. This was the save results as. The display results in Excel would also prompt, but then it would just display it right in Excel. Okay, so you can let the user decide how they're going to use it. Now, if you're going to email, I can email this out, put in my 2 email addresses, and of course, see and copy and blind copy. I can change the subject. I can choose my PC format, and I can also choose to schedule it. I have Robot Schedule, not the IBM job scheduler, so it comes in focus. If you don't have Robot, you get the other one, but you can schedule it easily to say every Monday at, I don't know, let's say 6 a.m. This report will be emailed in an Excel format to all the recipients. So that's the idea of pushing it out, right? So they can have the user do it interactively from the browser or from Viewpoint. You can also push it out in an email, right? Do that kind of thing. Now here's the add-in. Now I have this Excel spreadsheet already saved on my desktop. Now it's asking me, do you want to refresh the Viewpoint data? I mentioned in the PowerPoint that the Excel does remember the information. Now you can tell it not to. You can say no, and it'll keep the existing information, or you can actually remove the link. But here I have 3 different tabs with 3 different views. You don't have to do it that way. You can have it all on one, just the way I like to do it. And it's asking me to log on because I haven't logged on yet. All part of the security of the eye, right? So the system knows who I am. Now this one here we have is a state selection. So you can see they're Western states, California, Arizona. So I'm going to pick Midwestern to be some different here. Let's go down to Minnesota. That should be good. Click OK. And now I see that data. The chart, the graph is an Excel chart, but it adjusted because it's selecting the whole column. The amount dues and everything recalculated. This one's new data. There's no prompt on this. This one I call the data dump. It's just a big view with a lot of different columns, a lot of different rows. Just saying I'll put it out here. But why did I bring this one down? Because I have a Excel pivot table built over this. Okay, so you can have an Excel pivot table sitting out here. And remember, I'm doing all this remote myself. I'm sitting in my home and the system's up in Minnesota. So easily to do this. Now I'm going to go to a new tab and add a new view, right? So I come over here to the Viewpoint ribbon, click Add View, goes to my default system. I put in the library. I could also browse for it. There's a drop down, right? I just type it out. Same thing with the view name. I can browse Or since I know the name, it's one we created called orders 2, right? Go ahead and click OK, and goes out, gets the data. There's my region prompt. I select my region. Pick a different one here. There we go. A little more data with this one. There you go. Now, if I make some changes to the Excel workbook, things like column headings, right? If I change the font, you can see it has all the dollar signs out here. But if I come over back to the home, I like to add boxes around my column heading fields. I also like to shade them. Now, if I save this workbook, it's going to remember that. So the next time I open it, it's going to refresh the data, and it's going to remember all the column headings, any totals that I put out here, anything like that, the workbook's going to know. So that gives us into the 3 ways to get data into Excel. Now, since the definitions are stored on the eye, users can, all they have to do is rerun the shortcut. So let's talk about dashboards now. I'm going to create a new one, right? You open up new dashboard. There's a snap to grid. That's why you see the little dots. You can use grid spacing to move those dots in or out. Then you start inserting some objects. You can do text boxes, you can do SQL objects, etc. So let's put some out here. There's our good friend orders 2. Excuse me, it actually runs. It's asking me for my prompt. Then it says, do you want to save that value with the dashboard? Most of the time you want to say no, right? There are times I can see when you want to say yes, because you're building one dashboard for maybe someone who only runs something for region 10. So you give it to them and that's all they get. But here's my orders view, orders 2, that's sitting out here. Let's add another one here. I'm going to go, I like to right click rather than using the toolbar, just like in the view design. I'm going to go to a different library this time, grab an existing SQL definition. This one's called accounts receivable, AR. This one's doing some summary level. All right, so go ahead and open it. There it goes, position and size the window. I'm finding myself, I do this, I move it, I change my mind, move it again, change my mind, move it again. Now I'm going to create a chart over the total here. So I highlight the data, click the chart button, and I get a graph or a chart. Position and size that window, and then make changes to this if I need to. Okay. So once I get it out here, I like to turn on the toolbar, but you can, if you're going to make just a minor change, you can do it right from here to choose the different types of charts. Okay. Change them right here. But again, I like turning on the toolbar, going up to chart toolbar, turns it on. Clicking any one of those buttons opens up the control. Then I can make my changes here. I can change things like title, the font of the title, again, the actual chart type. I can put some different controls out there. And then I turn off the toolbar so the user doesn't see it. And then I usually hide the toolbar. But that's a user option. That's how you want it to be. If you want to hide the toolbar, hide the border, you can even hide the data from the chart. You may not want it out there. You may not need it, right? You can always hide it. But if you want the user to be able to see it, drill down into it, something like that, with the show details and regroup, you keep the data out there nice and easy, right? Insert a text box. You can insert action buttons on here as well. And then when you're doing that, you give the action button a label, what you want a button to say, and then what the button's going to do. It can run another view, it can run another dashboard, it can run a table. You can have it go out to a different website, run a PC program, stuff like this. But I'm just going to keep this one simple for time. I'm going to just wrap up the you can do, like I said, graphics. Right about graphics, you can do those images like logos and pictures and things like that, right? But it's kind of simple right here. We've got a lot of white space, but that's okay for this example. Then I'm going to save it. Now you probably want to save it as a system I object. That means it's out there on your eye. You can secure it. You can put it in a library, which gets backed up, and the users can create a shortcut, or you can create a shortcut for the users to this from the browser. Then all they have to do is run it. Okay. So that's why it's on the eye. If they lose their PC, if it gets damaged, the shortcuts gets lost, you still have the original dashboard. Just create another shortcut and send it to them. You don't lose the whole definition. All right, a little more security there. So that's how you build it. Now let's bounce over to the browser side. Again, remote user, come on over here, get the Explorer, click on the Business Intel library, right? I'm gonna filter off of dashboards, run my one I just created. There's my region prompt. Go ahead and pick a region, click OK. Now remember when I built it, I picked a different region. I didn't pick 50, but it's okay. The chart adjusted and it's all, good to go. There's my data, there's my chart, there's all the information that I have there. Like I said, dashboards are customizable. You can have them for a lot of different information. It could be all graphics, it could be all buttons, like a menu system, right? It could be things like just income statement, balance sheets, those types of things. Really, there's no rhyme or reason. It's really up to you. Sometimes you just want a lot of numbers, a lot of charts, a lot of things like this. Really up to the user, up to you on how you want to build all of that. Okay. So let me bring back up the PowerPoint slide. That wraps up the demonstration. So kind of what we covered here, whether you're converting your old IBMI queries or building new SQL definitions from scratch, you can build powerful and flexible results. Customizable dashboards, as you saw, allow you to create and share KPIs and from Viewpoint or from the browser. Since that's what we're talking about here, remote access, the browser's the way to go, right? Dashboards can combine the key data you need in one place, and you saw how easy it was to take data into Excel. Now, empowerment is making information easy and flexible for your business users. They will be relying less and less on IT for reports, and then IT can be more productive in other areas. So when management, executives, business users ask for dashboards, easier access into Excel, more self-reliance, and those types of things, look to tools that accomplish this without a major system disruption, without months or years of work, without spending an entire IT budget to move your data to a PC-based system. And there's no doubt SQL has all of this and many more advanced features, and they're all available when you need them. That wraps that up.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Good
You bet.
information, good demo. So we are going to move into answering your questions, and we have one more polling question for you while Mike takes a look at those polling questions. So this one, I'm sorry, with your questions, this one actually is, would you like to see more SQL, maybe with a one-on-one demo? So it's just a yes, maybe, not at this time. So if you wouldn't mind answering that, and then Mike, I'll turn it back over to you for the polling questions. I mean,
All
for the,
right.
for the
For
business questions, because
the business questions, yeah.
yeah,
There's a couple out here.
the
Give
product
me the
questions.
product questions, exactly. Give me a couple seconds out here. I'm trying to, wow, there are some out here. Give me a second. There they are. Wow. Do, 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 do. There we go. Okay. One of the questions is, does all of this work with V5R4? Interesting. SQL has been around for many, many years, actually started on the System 38. Our current versions, the brand new current versions, everything you were seeing here today, do not on 5.4. We do have versions that are available on V5R4, but they're locked, they're stuck. So you may not have all of the features, all of the functionality. I don't recall what we've added between our V5R4 version to today, but IBM stopped supporting V5R4, geez, long time ago, long time ago. So, but some customers are out there with it. So, and there's another question then from Connie saying, how secure is the web interface since it's HTTP link and not HTTPS? Actually, you can make it HTTPS. There's a little bit of work that you might need to do. So I'm gonna close the polling question. Sorry about that. you can actually tweak what we do when we install the product is we create an HTML, an HTTP connection, HTTP connection for SQL Web Interface. And you can go into that connection and do some tweaks on it and do some other things. Those are just your typical IBMs. What comes with the product, what we install, is both secure and non-secure, that type of stuff out there. So you can do a little bit of tweaking on that, so it is securable in a lot of areas. Now, we do have different versions of web interface. What I was showing you here was just one of the type of connections. There's a total of 3 different connections, what we call classic, what we call, I don't want to get too much into the weeds here, but what we call classic, we call host mode, and we call repository. Host mode will connect to another server where you can do some more controls with the users, and then a repository mode, which some of our showcase users tend to like because you're using the IFS rather than library structure. So you have some options out there. Let's see. Someone's talking about support. If call support, you can go into community, our community portal. You can go into to log a question there. You can do phone calls. You can do that kind of thing. Every call should be looked at, and every call should be answered.
Yep, we'll take that. We'll take that one offline and make sure we'll check on that case and circle back to that customer. Thanks.
Okay, what do we got else? The ones we have out here. Just a second. Bear with me. Does the option to create deploy dashboards come with SQL? Someone must be a SQL user or have seen SQL in the past. Absolutely. We've had dashboards for quite a while. Back in the early days, you could only save it as a PC file, but all the current stuff, it's all included. It's all there. Just a matter of how you want to do that.
How you want to deploy, exactly. That's probably the beauty of it, right? There's all sorts of, hopefully that's what people saw today with it, was that there are all sorts of different ways to start with that query, convert it into SQL, change it up if you want to, or not change it up, just to allow the business user to display the results through a browser instantly, or take that query and add things in like runtime prompts, or get it to Excel, or put it on a dashboard. So lots of different ways to deploy information out to the user community.
Exactly.
Well, I think that wraps up our questions. Mike, thanks again for the information and the demo, and thanks everyone for joining us today. We really appreciate it and hope you have a great rest of the day. Stay well.
Yep, thank you.